I'd like to call the meeting of January 8, 2025 at 6:30. Call to order and rise with me to say the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you have, stand up, please, for the people that are in Los Angeles. We'll have a moment of silence for them. And also for the 39th president, which has passed away. Thank you very much. You may be seated. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Allman?
Here.
Gonzalez?
Here.
Alanis?
Here.
Mayor Stransky?
Yes.
Okay. Public communications. The City Council welcomes input from the audience. If there is a matter of business on the agenda that you are interested in, you may address the council when this matter is considered. If you wish to speak on a matter that is not on the agenda, you may do so at this time. In order for everyone to be heard, please limit your comments to 3 minutes per person. The Brown Act regulations do not allow action to be taken on audience comments in which the subject is not listed on the agenda. Members of the public are asked to observe the rules of decorum. While the City Council welcomes public criticism of policies, procedures, programs, or services of the agency, behavior that disrupts, disturbs, impedes, or renders infeasible the orderly conduct of the meeting, and that includes but is not limited to use of profanity, slurs, yelling from the audience, threatening remarks, physically threatening conduct, or physical or verbal displays of disrespect, will not be tolerated, and the individual will be removed immediately.
Thank you. Is there anybody has a comment to make from the audience that isn't on the agenda? Yes, Madge?
Thank you. Madge Strong, former city council person. So I wanted to just mention I've heard rumors, and I don't know if they're true or not, but that at least one or more of the council members might be choosing not to serve on committees, and I wanted to say that that is part of the job. And everyone should know that when they run for city council. It's a very important part of the job to get city business done and also to represent our city on countywide boards and the League of Cities and so forth. So I do hope that all of you are planning to do your share so that it doesn't fall either that nobody's serving and therefore we're not getting represented, or that certain people are having to pick up the slack. It's really not fair to every single person who runs for city council should be prepared to do that job. While I'm at it, another rumor I've heard is that there's some dissatisfaction with our city manager. And having served on council for 12 years under quite a few different city managers, I want to say that I have utmost respect for Brian Bender's term of office here. He's accomplished a tremendous amount. He, I think, does so with honesty and respect for people in the community. And city managers do not grow on trees. They are a rare commodity. I think we have great fortune in having a very competent and diligent city manager right now. He's probably the best city manager I have worked with. And if there are areas of dissatisfaction, I think those are legitimate to take up, but don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. Thank you.
Thank you, Mitch. Anybody else?
Helen Sims. Happy New Year and congratulations for all of you on the council. I haven't been to a council meeting in quite some time, and I've only lived back in this area for a couple of years. Tom has actually answered my question, but I thought someone else might be interested. I'm interested in the standing committees and who will be on each of those committees, and I understand that will not be looked at tonight, so I understand that's something in the future, but there is public interest on that. Thank you.
Yes. Anybody else from the community? Thank you very much. Public matters, there is no public matters tonight, and the ordinances, none tonight. Consent calendar, and it's December 11th and December 17th, which was a special meeting.
I'd like to move.
Jerry made the, and you'll second it?
I second.
All in favor?
Public comment.
Huh?
Public comment.
Oh, public, excuse me. I've already forgot. Anybody from the public that would like to make a statement on the consent calendar? Thank you. We have Jerry that made the okay, and Matthew that has seconded. Dolores, would you like to?
Councilmember Allman,
Aye.
Gonzalez.
Yes.
Alanis,
Yes.
Mayor Stransky.
Yes.
The monthly activity reports are on the next item. They are the accounts payable report, the business license activity report, and the building permit activity report. They are in your packets, and they're available online for the public to see. They're all for December 2024. There is nothing for commissions, agencies, and authorities. The city manager report and recommendations. First item is a request by Redwood Waste Solutions, Inc. for a consumer price index increase of 2.55% applied to all service accounts within the city.
Mr. Mayor, I think I need to recuse myself as my daughter works for Redwood Waste Solutions in Ukiah. So,
Okay.
should I get down?
Yes.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, there's an agenda item I just want to bring to the attention for the benefit of the audience, is that the first closed session, item 12A, will not be entertained tonight. And that was communicated to the council earlier in the day. Okay, so thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. So we have an item tonight. It is a request as noted by Redwood Waste Solutions for them, the organization, to seek a consumer price index as specified within the franchise agreement, which was renewed and revised, essentially was transferred from the previous ownership to the Redwood Waste Solutions approximately a year ago. In that provision of the franchise agreement, they can come before the council, and this is considered basically an operational increase. It's not a significant, as it's defined in their franchise agreement, a large increase, which would require public hearing, public notification. This one is at this level before you, and I can see Michelle Goodman and Bruce McCracken, both of Redwood Waste Solutions, here to present their request to you.
Okay. Anything up the diocese for this?
I just want, oh, go ahead, sir. My question, I just wanted to get clarification. So this does not require 45-day public notification?
No.
It is not?
No.
Okay, and what was the reason for that? Because of the size of it?
Yes, the way that the franchise agreement dictates or explains breaks out the increases. There are certain increase steps. This one falls within the consumer price or operational expenses.
Okay.
If they were going for a significant increase that would alter their fees, there is a criteria in the franchise agreement that spells out for large increases that would require the public hearing, public notice.
Okay, so I'm really uninformed about this, so I appreciate you educating me about this. My reading of the Brown Act, it says any new increases. There's a list of exceptions there, but the size of it is not relevant, so.
This has not Redwood Waste Solutions, but the previous organization has come before this council. Similar franchise agreement provisions, they were laid out and they did not trigger the public hearing process notification.
Well, wait a minute, just because we did it like that with a former solid waste, which I support, I'm not against this thing. However, what Councilmember Alney said is if it doesn't meet the criteria, then we can't do it just because that's the way it's always been done.
I'm not saying it's just.
I'm sorry, I wasn't finished.
Okay.
We can't do it just because that's always been done. And so it appears as if the councilman has some very specific reasons why it can't be happened tonight. And with all due respect to the city manager, this is news to me. I'd like for the councilman to tell us about that.
Yeah, I was honestly just, I've been a member of this public for many years, and I've owned houses across the state, and every time a rate increase goes on, whether it's a utility, there is a 45-day public notification. It wasn't published. There wasn't a lot of timing here given, and so I thought that some of the delay, there was some correspondences going back and forth. I thought that some of that delay was a result of waiting for the 45 days to go on, but.
And it was my understanding that the reason we were able to do it tonight, and I'd like for the city attorney to tell me if I'm mistaken, is when the original franchise contract was signed by the past city council, that it was agreed upon that there would be COLAs, the cost of living allowances, that were almost built into the franchise agreement. And because of the such, I guess technically, public notice has been given. It was given at the time that the franchise agreement was originally looked at, and the public had a chance to comment. Am I incorrect with that, attorney?
You know, I'm not prepared to speak to that. I wasn't anticipating this issue. City Manager Bender was prepared to present this item tonight, and I wasn't asked to look into this. It would always be helpful in advance of a meeting, if there's a question like this, to let us know in advance, that I can be prepared to speak to it. So if you want to take a break and have me research the issue or put this off to the next meeting, but I'm really not prepared to speak to your concern this evening. I defer to the manager on this.
And I appreciate, that information. I'd like to know more myself, and I don't know if we can discover all that information in the last couple of.
I'm good either way. I know that solid waste is here. River management is here.
No, I'm fully supportive of doing this. I just want to make sure that we follow the law. And I don't know that, as you suggested earlier, whether, the previous city council agreeing to it, that we're going to do it all the time, that doesn't have anything to do with the language. It says any new or any. That's pretty clear. And they have a couple of exceptions regarding different situations, but none of that seems to fit this, including prior agreements or any other things. The purpose of the public notification is to allow people to prepare to come to this meeting. I mean, the public didn't even know that this was going to happen today up until this was given. So I just want to make sure that we as a new council, and I'm just a new councilman who's just maybe a little skittish, maybe a couple of years later I have the experience to make some fair decisions, but I'm not prepared to decide on this right now, and for that reason I would like to make a motion that we continue this to another meeting. So city council has or council has a chance to take a look at it.
I have one thing, go ahead, and then I.
No, that's it. No, that's my suggestion. I would like to.
I think that is a good thing. We need to, does anybody from the audience have anything to say?
Well, Mr. Mayor,
Well-
the city manager was going to speak until.
Oh, excuse me.
Okay, so looking through the packet, there's an item in the packet that relates to the franchise agreement provisions regarding the increases. Like Mr. Lance alluded to, we had not had a chance to prepare a response to Vice Mayor Eleni's specific questions. So I think it is in the best interest of the body to have this matter continued.
To the 22nd? To Ms. Gray?
Well,
Maybe longer than that, because
Yes.
if it turns out that we do in fact have to do a 45-day notification, it may be a couple months, depending on the publication. And our newspaper, our paper of record, isn't going to be even publishing for the next month, so it's going to be even longer than that. But there are other publishers you can record, including the Ukiah places and the other, whether it's news or other places that can be published, but it's a serious delay. Now, again, I don't think it's any surprise that I'm aware of this because other local municipalities are doing the same thing. They're dealing with the same trash issue with the same people, and they're doing it the way their council had suggested doing it. And I don't know whether what's right or wrong, so that's why we bring it up to our council. Perhaps, as he suggested, with a little bit more experience, maybe I would have brought this earlier to your attention so we could have handled that. But I thought this would be the very day to do it since it's a public issue. And
You can always reach out to me in advance of a meeting with the manager if you've got a question like this. And I apologize that I don't have a definitive answer to your question. I didn't anticipate the question. And so please reach out.
yes, now I was given your contact information, so I will absolutely make use of that. I appreciate your offer. Thank you.
Well, there's a motion on the table without a second.
Yes.
And at the very minimum, we should offer it up to the representatives here and the city or the citizens to comment.
Okay, I have one question also. Is the 2.55% include the Coal Creek's advance? So it's all conjected into one? Thank you. Would you like to come up here and explain it for?
No.
Young lady, come on.
Good evening, Council. Michelle Goodman with Redwood Waste Solutions. Is it on? So I wanted to touch on the noticing period just because I have a little bit of a backstory on this. So we did run into that with the Brook Trails Township in our franchise agreement. It does say that we need to do a noticing period. We do not do a noticing period anywhere else in Mendocino County. And so take with that what you will. I am not a lawyer. And in terms of the CPI adjustment, I wanted to explain kind of how we came up with it. So it's the COLA fuel adjustment. So the cost of living piece, that's 1.86%. The fuel actually went down year over year. So it decreased the adjustment by 0.24%. The disposal, which includes the Cold Creek adjustment, it adjusted it by 0.53%. And then recycling commodity value market, the recycling markets kind of go up and down. It adjusted it 0.4%, and that totals 2.55%. So, and I did just want to point out that the fuel, because it went down, it did decrease what the adjustment could have been. So that is what I've got. I hope that's helpful.
Thank you.
Well, wait. So when is this scheduled? If everything was going as you planned, when would it be scheduled to take place?
I mean, it could, in my knowledge, it could happen tonight.
No. When would the rate increase happen?
So we have delayed the billing because it was supposed to go in effect on January 1st. So we were planning to delay the billing to tomorrow, but if you decide to continue it, then we would go with whatever date that you would go forward with the approval.
But we can't retroactively bill people at 2.55. So
Nope.
that's out the way. I mean, that's wrong with a capital W.
It is.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's against our franchise agreement. We cannot back bill.
So if I may, council members, so looking through the provision that they're citing in the franchise agreement to trigger this COLA increase, there is no references to notification is required. And I believe Mr. Lance is looking over the Browns Act provisions.
I'll just read what I'm coming across here, that in the publication, open and public League of California Cities. It says, the Brown Act prescribes specific procedures for adoption by a city, county, special district, or joint powers authority of any new or increased tax or assessment imposed on businesses. Although written broadly, these Brown Act provisions do not apply to new or increased real property taxes or assessments, as those are governed by the California Constitution, Article 13C and D, enacted by Proposition 218. At least one public meeting must be held to allow public testimony on the tax or assessment. In addition, there must also be at least 45 days notice of a public hearing at which a legislative body proposes to enact or increase the tax or assessment. Notice of a public meeting and public hearing must be provided at the same time to the same document. The public notice related to general taxes must be provided by newspaper publication. The public notice related to a new or increased business assessment must be provided through that's all. The first part of that talked about taxes on businesses, and what I'm not clear about is whether a COLA pass-through is the equivalent of a new tax or assessment or not. And so that's an issue that I would need to look at. Thanks for bringing it to our attention, and I suggest that the matter should be continued to the next meeting, and we'll give a definitive answer to that. And if we haven't given the proper notification, we would do so.
In that case, I would like to recommit my motion to continue or table this item until a later date.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded for the, to have it on the 22nd.
Not necessarily on the 22nd. My motion was to continue it till a later date.
Okay. Dolores, delete that on the 22nd. So, anything from the audience? Yes, Robin? No? Madge?
Well, it's just another comment that I think, again, from the 12 years that I've been on city council, once we adopted the franchise agreement, that the pass-through of cost of living and fuel costs and Cold Creek and that sort of thing, which is not an actual increase in the fee, it's keeping up with inflation is what it's doing, that was written in as part of the annual review of the rates, and that the city council in the past have usually acted on that in December so that could become part of the billing cycle on January 1st for Redwood Waste. So I personally think that that's a legitimate approach. If we find out that we've been breaking the law all this time and should have been giving 45-day notice and a special public hearing on it, so be it. But it has been the practice in our city, but apparently in the rest of the county, to consider those kinds of cost of living and pass-through costs as routine annual adjustments.
I think that's correct, and that what this 45-day period is really aimed at is a new tax and not a pass-through of a cost of living increase. But we'll look into it.
Thank you. I was just going to respond to the comment because I appreciate your experience. I mean, your experience has been valuable on this and sharing with us what the rest of the previous councils may have thought. And I would just like to get to the bottom of it. We've already agreed we'll take a vote on it in a little while. But I just want, again, it's my own personal experience. I've lived in more than one county. I've been in more than one city. I've been in more than one jurisdiction. We've had utilities change before, and it's always been the same. It's always a 45-day notice. When I moved to this county, I was shocked that nobody did that. And so maybe we were doing it wrong, and maybe this is the time to correct it. But I would like to be educated on that, and it looks like a lot of us are going to be learning a lot here pretty soon.
And the only thing I'd add to that, and I'll go to Mr. Lance's reading of it,
Yeah.
in my opinion, this is neither an assessment or a tax. This is a fee. This is a fee that's been agreed upon by a past city council. And so to the folks that are here tonight for this, I'm sorry that we're at this point right now. I mean, you could probably be doing something else on a Wednesday evening. However, putting off is the right thing, so we're doing the right thing. I know I have at least one text I was going to read as a citizen comment of a citizen who can't be here because of disability, that he wanted, his complaint was, why didn't we have notice on this to talk about it? And so I think that this will comply, this will not appease, this will satisfy some citizens that do want to comment on good and bad. You know, you provide a very good service. Your guys are really quiet in the morning when you come by my house at 6. I got to tell you that. You're really super, super quiet. So it's not bad. It's just we have to do things the right way. Thanks for understanding.
May I speak? Don't move as much as I used to.
None of it.
Good evening, Bruce McCracken, Redwood Waste Solutions. I concur. We don't want anything foggy. But I can tell you in the 40 years I've been doing this is a first. To Madge's point, the CPI it's an index contract. So anything above the index requires public hearing. So if we came in and said, we want to buy something, and it's going to cost this, and it's going to be 10% above the CPI, above the index, then that triggers it. So in Ukiah is the same way, all of our Lake County operations, as long as we are within the indexed rule that's within our franchise agreement, it's very clear how that spells out, then it's basically automatic. And in the majority of cities and counties that we work in, we don't go before any council or board unless it triggers that extraordinary, because they're usually very small. Anyway, that's the garbage history lesson. But I certainly defer to council. I would hope that we could settle this sooner rather than later. And if you have any questions of me?
Thank you. Dolores, will you read the thing with the second? So that we all have an idea of what we're all voting for.
We're voting to continue the item to a later date is what Vice Mayor Alanis.
Okay.
And it was moved by Alanis and seconded by Almond.
Yes. Okay. Is everybody ready to vote?
Councilmember Almond?
Aye.
Alanis?
Yes.
Mayor Stransky?
Yes. Thank you.
So what we'll do, we'll work with Redwood Waste Solutions just to verify. We'll check with Mr. Lance. And if we can bring it back, we'll work with the city, with the mayor, and see how we want to docket it for the next or two agendas.
Thank you. Thank you for
Thank
the
you.
compliment, too. I'll let the guys know.
Oh, I appreciate them very much.
That's what I have for tonight. So you're moving on to your recommendation items through departments.
The first department recommendation item is discussion and possible action to adopt a resolution awarding a professional services contract to EBA Engineering for landfill post-closure compliance services for a 2-year term with a total not to exceed amount of $82,412.40, of which $41,206.20 is for the first year and $41,206.20 for the second year, and authorizing the city manager to execute the contract.
It's up here to the diocese. Anybody have any comments on this? Tom? No? Yes.
Question, Walter. How much longer do we have to continue with the monitoring?
I asked that recently and everything. This, I think it's been shut down close to 20 years or more, in perpetuity. They don't know. There is no, landfills last a long time, and there is no closure date for this one.
No, because I mean, I know in some places they close landfills and they remediate them and eventually
Right.
build houses on them or do parks or something. And
Some of them are this landfill closure, they're monitoring it. We've done very well with EBA, and all the readings we get, all the reports we get, it's doing very well. But just the nature of it and the closure agreement, it's still not, we do not have a definitive end date on it. So this is going to be long-term. We've looked at possible alternative uses and being able to use it either for hiking, things like that, which is a possibility, and some of those sites, they are doing that. But in the meantime, we still have to do all the testing and monitoring as per our regulatory standards that we need to follow, yes.
And as far as the county ponying up their share, we're still in.
We are working with them, and we're working with DOT this year and trying to get back on some of the, there was agreement that was done years ago that hadn't been followed, and the county has not been paying their share. And so we're trying to get back on a level footing with them, and we're working on that right now with past amounts due and seeing what we can come together with them going forward and stuff, and with their share.
Because I know the history of this dump was that it was shared between the city and the county.
It was supposed to be 50%, yes, correct. And we've been footing the bill for years, yes.
Okay.
So we are working on that this year. We're going to have some sort of resolution to that. Yeah. Any other questions do you guys have at all, or?
Any questions?
Okay.
Sure.
I have to say EBA is doing an excellent job. They're sort of the preeminent engineering firm that does this type of work, and we've done very well with them, so.
I'm kind of curious, so why 2 years? Is that their agreement for 3 years? Go for 2, can we do a 5-year contract, or that?
I think Brian, was the last contract also 2 years? It was before my time. I don't know how we've been coming up with a 2-year contract.
EBA as a corporation tends to favor 2-year service contracts.
Sure. Okay.
Oh, okay. Is that
That's
the
how
last one?
It's nested with, well, this contract separate, but that's how they also present the groundwater program.
Oh, okay, so all of them have been done like that, okay, yeah.
Tom, anything?
Nothing.
Jerry?
Well, I'd like to make the motion
Okay.
so you can take it up to the public if we get a second.
Anybody from the audience have anything to say?
Why don't you get us first and second?
Yeah,
Go, you got it first.
Yeah.
We have a second.
Okay,
I'll second.
okay.
Okay.
excuse me.
No worries.
Okay,
I'm sorry, I do have one question. So does this come out, what fund does this come out of, to the city manager? What fund does this come out of?
This one is going to come out of general fund.
Okay.
Usually had its own line item, post-closure maintenance. and
Yes,
what it's been
yeah.
called.
Yeah, it
Is
does,
this in line with the budget? I'm sorry, I don't have my budget book in front of me.
yes, it is,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Yes.
anybody else? Okay. I need an motion, please.
Councilmember Gonzalez did a motion, then Vice Mayor Alaniz seconded. Councilmember Almond,
Aye.
Gonzalez,
Yes,
Alaniz,
Yes.
Mayor Stransky.
Yes.
Next item.
B,
Adopt a resolution to approve a professional services contract with Tall Tree Engineering for on-call services as the city engineer defined as a consultant in a management support role for an amount not to exceed $150,000 with a term ending June 30th, 2026. Presenting staff member is Mr. Coleman.
Any questions about this? What this is that we ended a 3-year cycle of having an on-call engineer. The city is required by law to have an on-call, have an engineer on staff or on call for projects. We ended a 3-year cycle, and this is the new cycle. We've actually, this is really excellent. This is a local firm that we've worked with before. The principal actually used to work for the city, so we're excited to work for this individual. I think it's going to serve the city very well, and we're coming in at a really good rate. For us, we're going to have a lot more control than the last cycle, and I think we're going to save a lot of money and just be very productive with this firm. Yes.
Yes, I was curious about, we had previously used LACO, right?
They were the last one, yes.
Did they put it a bid this time, or were we using it for something?
No, so they had the option. We changed up the parameters. Last time in the 3-year cycle, firms that applied were able to apply for the CSMR position and for outside engineering contracts. And this time we did it that the person who becomes the on-call city engineer cannot apply for any outside work. They're focused on this. So basically, there's no conflict of interest. And so they chose to be, if we ever have any projects, LACO chose to instead bid on any future engineering projects. Yes.
I also appreciate the work you did to put together and share with this, the proposal and everything else. It's really very educational and people that
I
are
think,
interested should read it.
yeah, and I think Tall Tree is going to serve the city very well. We're looking forward to working with her, both our department and community development. We have lots of projects in the year coming up, so, yeah.
So your answer is a great segue to my question.
Yes.
So last year, the city spent right at $275,000 for contract engineer services.
Correct.
So now I support the basic concept of this not to exceed 150,000.
Yes.
But you said the reason LACO didn't apply is because they want to apply for other engineering jobs with the city of Willits.
Correct.
Which makes me believe that $150,000, while it's going to save us money on paper right here, your answer says that we're going to be spending more money above that by contracting with other companies like LACO.
We also, when we have projects, we put them out for competitive bid. There are certain projects we'll do in-house. Other ones are for professional services, engineering services that are above and beyond what the city does, like project management, survey work and everything on larger projects. Those will go out to a competitive bid, which we have not done before, where there'll be an RFP or an RFP for a proposal to come out to bid. Most of the stuff that we'll be doing in-house with Suzanne and Tall Tree will be leading up to some of those projects and getting those put into place. The outside contractors, last time we had a cycle where we had quite a few outside projects that we were doing. We're going to be controlling it much better in-house now with this firm, and we will not have as many projects as we did last time. Yeah.
So does that mean the $275,000 that was last year, you don't expect to spend that this year?
No.
I mean, that's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money, but I think we're going to have a lot more control. We're looking at, we're phasing in our projects differently and prioritizing things, and we will not have those costs incurred like we did last year. We're trying to contract back in and have more control over it and our budget and everything, yes.
Mr. Mayor, I may like to respond to that as well. The current budget has a precision program for services and facilities for a construction tech specialist. So a lot of that responsibility was farmed out to other consulting firms. That is going to be brought in-house.
Yeah,
the other item with those costs that was identified just now, as Mr. Copeland alluded to, those project expenses are going to be programmed into specific projects. Before we broke them out for engineering and project management, now they're going to be folded into the project itself. And the budget is structured to basically pull from different sources into the project itself, so we can track it differently.
It'll be more inclusive. It'll have the whole project together with the engineering costs, yes. Because there's always going to be some engineering costs, project management costs, yes.
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, Jerry.
And I guess just from in the past when I wasn't on the council, but I remember we did at times have a city engineer.
Yeah.
We also contracted out for engineering services, I think from SHN or some of those for specialty services.
Yes.
And I would suspect even if tomorrow we hired our own engineer, we would still probably be contracting out some engineering.
There's certain specialty sectors and stuff with water, like EBA with the solid waste site and everything, that are more specialized that most city engineers do not handle. So there will be some things like that that are unavoidable, yes.
Mostly I just wanted to reaffirm to the public that still happens and could possibly still happen in the future.
Yes, it will still happen, but not to the extent it's happened the last 3 years. I think we're going to contract in, like City Manager Brian Bender said, we're bringing that in-house, some of this and everything, which we haven't had in the last couple of years, that we have a construction tech who can do some of the things and out in the field and everything. So that's going to bring back the money into doing it in-house, yes.
Great. Tom, you all right? Tom?
No, that's for me.
Jerry? Would like to anybody make a motion, and then we'll turn it out to the audience?
I'll make the motion that we support the presentation, the recommendation, department recommendation.
I'll second.
Jerry seconds. Okay, how about the audience? Does anybody have anything to say about this? The podium's up there by himself, but you can... Okay. Call for the...
Councilmember Almond?
Aye.
Gonzalez?
Yes.
Alanis?
Yes.
Mayor Stransky?
Yes. Thank you, Walter. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next.
The next item is to review and approve the City of Willits 2023 General Plan and Housing Element Annual Progress Reports.
The cameraman's always proud of me when I turn on the, I'll be presenting this one. Good evening, Mayor, council members, Dusty Dooley, your Community Development Director. I was just starting by noting out that our cameraman's always proud when I remember to turn on the mic, so I've already scored a point here. So what the matter before you today is we have two reports. One is called the General Plan Annual Progress Report, and then one specific to the housing element. State law requires us to complete these reports annually. We are required to bring them in front of our governing body, in this case, our council, and get authorization by resolution to forward them on to the state. So, as I mentioned, this is a requirement of state law. You have the general plan progress report, and the purpose of it is to note progress on the implementation of the general plan. And then, so, and let me also note, these are reporting documents, so there's no policy changes being presented or anything like that. It is what it sounds like. It's a progress report. So the general plan progress report intends to summarize the status of the general plan, introduce key development activities and projects that were implemented or completed in the 2023 calendar year. So typically the state appreciates us getting these done in April, so we are tardy on this one for 2023, and we've actually already started working on the next reports, which are scheduled to come before you in April. So we'll be back with you shortly for the next round of reporting here. The good news is, if you've read through the reports, we've been able to accomplish quite a number of good things for our community here, and it's all in the pack. And I'm not intending to go over each one, but I did want to highlight, for instance, under the economic development element, the city was able to secure over $470,000 in grant funds, and we were able to provide those to local businesses to support paying their employees. Some of the money was done for purchasing materials or otherwise allowing businesses and helping them adapt to some of the restrictions that occurred due to COVID. All of these, although they were called loans, they were all forgiven after 3 months, and none of these businesses had to pay back a single cent of the $470,000. The city was also able to use those grant funds to complete the underwriting of the loans. So that was certainly something to celebrate and note in the report there. And was definitely a matter of personal satisfaction for my relatively long career at this point. Also, public services and facilities, the park and recreation element, we were able to note the progress on the Railwood Trail project and certainly note the work on the land use element update. The housing element report examines the city progress on implementing each of our housing element programs, as well as our progress on the city meeting our share of the regional housing needs as allocated by the state. Unfortunately, we weren't able to include the housing element report in the packet. The clerk did just hand out one section of that housing element report, which is the update on each of the individual programs there. The reason we didn't include the full report, the Housing Community Development, HCD, they provide an Excel template on their website. We downloaded that, but unfortunately they have some automated equations or formulas within that template that auto-populate certain key summaries, but unfortunately they were not working. So we've reached out to the state, notified of that, and we're seeking to get those fixed. If we had presented that to you, they would have been ripe with errors, they would have been confusing. We certainly can bring back that full template once we're able to get that from the state and complete it. But really, the meat of it is what you have right there. And the only thing to add on top of that would be the update on meeting our regional housing needs. And the details on that is in this current 8-year cycle, which for us is 2019 to 2027, the city has seen 46 residential units constructed since 2019. So with what you have in front of you and that bit of information, that's essentially what's in the total report. Certainly happy to answer any questions, but what staff is seeking tonight is approval of a resolution authorizing staff to submit these reports to the state. Thank you.
Anybody?
I just wanted to make sure that this is going to be available to the public somehow. This will be attached to the
I will post it,
website,
yes.
and will be part of it.
Tom?
I just have a question, Dusty. Thank you
Yeah.
for this. So the the progress we're making with housing, is it in line with what the state expects, or they just expect a report, or are we behind?
I don't want to quite get into my dissatisfaction with how the state completes this formula and allocates these numbers out. Essentially, the state has their own equation. They say, hey, you, Mendocino County and jurisdictions, you're responsible for this much housing. For us, it comes through MCOG, and then the jurisdictions, Mendocino County, the various incorporated cities come together, and we get this one number from the state, and then we have to break it up and kind of agree on our share of it. So for us, it's 111 units. We've completed 46, so we still have a ways to go. So I'd say we're behind. And so yeah, that's the answer to your question.
Thank you.
Yeah.
When you say behind, what's the timetable on that? We agreed to 111 housing as whatever that, however that came about.
Right.
Did we agree to do that within 1 year, 5 years?
So it's within the 8-year housing cycle, so it's 111 units between 2019 and 2027. To get more specific, it's August of 2019 to August of 2027. There's no, you don't get like punished if you don't meet that goal. And what the city has been able to showcase is that we have created the opportunity and that we don't have significant obstacles to developing the housing. We're not responsible for building it, we're responsible for making sure that those opportunities exist within our community for all the various income levels. And so the opportunities far exceed 111, and that number is included in the table at the bottom of the report there. And just to kind of speak on housing a little bit more, if I may, the city needs housing just like pretty much everywhere in California. We are working with RCHDC on developing a grant application. We have actively spoken with experienced developers and facilitated meeting with property owners that represent properties by way of zoning and parcel size that represent significant housing opportunities. What we're hearing from the developers is that it does pencil out for them. It doesn't pencil out building, 4 or 5 units at a time, but if they can get an opportunity to build 25 houses or more, so they're actively seeking properties in Willits. So if you're a property owner and you're interested in speaking with one of these housing developers, I'm happy to facilitate that conversation. But what we're hearing from our largest employers is there's an opportunity to expand their number of employees, provided the city can realize housing. So we're kind of taking some approaches beyond what a typical jurisdiction would do to try to facilitate that. Certainly the land use element update with the changes to the land use diagram to be followed by bringing forward the zoning map consistent with the land use diagram or the general plan map, created a significantly more opportunities to build housing within Willits, either rezoning to, as well as protecting our existing housing. So the other thing that's happening is, right, we're talking about building new housing, but it's also about maintaining our existing housing stock, which is rather, a lot of it's quite old. That information's in our housing element as well. So that's why, you saw council support, community support for going and getting additional grant fundings and creating this housing rehabilitation program. Phil Davidson here is running that program, and we currently have 5 loans that are being underwritten and approved here shortly. So that's a revolving loan program that we, look forward to keeping going, long into the future there. So, thank you.
Jim, go ahead. Yeah, Jim. Excuse me.
Jerry.
Jim's
the other guy. Dusty, just to kind of summarize like what Tom is saying, and what you said earlier, we're not building housing, but I think the best thing we can do up here on the council is to take away any obstacles to folks wanting to build, and to make sure that we have adequate water, that we have adequate services, and that we can help facilitate that, and doing what you just talked about, the rehabilitation, because we do have a lot of older housing stock out there that is in desperate need of rehab. So.
That's correct. Thank you.
Okay. Yes. I really like the thing where we gave people the money to rebuild last time, to rebuild on their home. And I thought that was excellent. And that, it still doesn't, does it have an amount of money that we can spend on that?
Yeah. So we are going to be able to get at, and it's allocated every year, so we don't have all of this right here at the moment, but in total, $553,000 will be available for the program. We received a portion of that, pretty as much as we're able to get at this moment. And like I said, we've already, we're in the process of awarding 5 loans out to property owners within the city to help rehabilitate and increase the longevity of their homes.
People need to contact you to see if there's any ramifications on it or any things that they might not have.
Yeah, if anyone's interested in understanding if they're eligible and the details, and again, we do these as no interest loans. We're not trying to make money off of everybody. Likely you're not going to have to pay us back until you sell your home or, pass away. So the idea is that, you'd be able to not get displaced from your home for, 15, 30 years. So contact the Community Development Department, and we're happy to share details on the program. And we're likely to get at some additional funds and have another round of applications, later this year, maybe springtime.
Does anybody have, Tom, you have any other questions? Jerry?
I'd just like to make a motion to accept staff recommendations and approve the resolution.
Do I hear a second?
Yes, I'd like to second that motion.
You have that? Okay, anybody in the audience? Thank you very much. Ready for the vote?
Councilmember Almond,
Yes.
Gonzalez,
Yes.
Alanis,
Yes.
and Mayor Spencer.
Yes.
And the next item is introduction by title only, a revision to section 8.26.090, suspension, termination, or revocation of license provisions of the Willits Municipal Code, and presenting staff member is Philip Davison, our code compliance officer.
Councilman, Mayor. So this is actually a part of our tobacco license ordinance. And it came about, well, we were doing our inspections of the facilities. We had certain people selling flavored tobacco. And in 2020, the state made it illegal to sell flavored tobacco. But they really enforced the Stake Act, so they made it illegal, and the fines all kind of catered to the selling underage and not really to just selling the tobacco, the flavored tobacco itself. And in 2024, the state had added Senate Bill 793, and they're enforcing, now they have fines and penalties. And they also, the Attorney General has a list of flavored tobacco products. And so by amending our ordinance, it just kind of catches up to what the state's doing right now. And so we can levy fines on our businesses that are still selling the flavored tobacco products.
Okay. Anybody up? Jerry?
Phil, it's my understanding that we're not the only city doing this. A lot of the cities were kind of caught doing catch up. Is that correct? That they're all updating their tobacco ordinances to reflect changes?
I can't answer that for sure, but I would think they would be. When it came about, I talked with Mr. Lance, and we talked about it, and there was no just direct fines that we could find a levy against the businesses. And so then I talked to the county, and they came up with the same thing. I talked to the state, and everybody kind of just hit a dead end on the fine process. And so then they put this law, they wrote it in, and so it makes it clear on the way we can fine businesses.
So the way that we find businesses is to suspend or revoke their license, is that it?
It'll start out as a fine for selling flavored tobacco products. I think it goes up, I think we have 5 years, and after the fourth, and I may be wrong here too, I can clarify that for you, but I believe after the fourth we can suspend their business license. But also with the state, public health is taking over the enforcement too on the state end. And so they're going to be going in and they'll pull products off shelves, and they'll fine per unit is how they'll enforce their end.
Then I'm confused. And I'm not against this. However, you said the state's going to be doing the enforcement, but we need to have a city ordinance for the state to do an enforcement?
Well, so right now, as a city, we can't enforce anything because it's just not written in our code that way. To enforce for selling flavored vapes to adults. In the state, the public health, I'm not sure when they'll start enforcing their end. They have till 2025, December of 2025. So if we can get this passed, then we can start enforcing the businesses that we have now.
Maybe this isn't the time or place to ask, but do we have businesses that that anybody knows or reported doing this?
We did, yes.
Oh, we did? Okay.
Well, I want to thank you for this important work. I mean, not only is it important to catch up with the legal sanctions that are going to be enforceable, but also to protect the children and hold our business accountable for what they should be doing. I think it's not only just that, but I think any successful business who's following the law and doing what they're right, they also would be benefiting from holding other non-compliant businesses accountable. So thank you for your work.
Anybody else?
Mr. Mayor, I just want to kind of follow up with Member Gonzalez's comments. And also, Phil, please jump in here. We work closely with enforcement on this type of activity with the county health department, and we had to make sure that our statute or code is consistent with what they have at the state, or excuse me, at the county. And we, a year and a half ago, we updated and we adopted almost by very similar provisions what the county has. So we're in sync with them. We team with their enforcement activities. They work with us. They work with Phil. And basically, for them to come in and do enforcement action, to spot underage sting operations, purchasing these items, they wanted to make sure there was enforcement and a finding mechanism that made it worthwhile. And this is a big step in that direction. It increases the teamwork effort that we have with the county and through Phil's effort to rid these products or, get them out of the hands with availability to youth of the community.
I think one of the problems that we had is that the fine structure that exists now for the sales of flavored tobacco is very modest. It's like a $100 fine, goes up to a $300 fine. And there was recent legislation that Phil was referring to that was intended to have the violations for the sale of flavored tobacco be the same as the violations of sale of tobacco products to underage persons, to make those fines compatible or the same. And so the net result of what you would be doing tonight by introducing this ordinance is, and by the passage of this ordinance at your next meeting, is to substantially increase the fines for the sale of flavored tobacco, which is what the legislature intended about a year ago when they passed new legislation. And so the amendment of an ordinance takes the same process as the passage of a new ordinance. There's an introduction tonight. The next meeting, it's actually adopted. It's a two-phase procedure. So the motion tonight should be to approve the introduction of the amendment for our existing ordinance 8.26.090 for the staff recommendation and waive the formal reading of the ordinance. Ordinance text. Text, correct.
I would so move.
There's actually no movement. There's no resolution for this item.
Well, this was initially prepared as a resolution, and we changed it to be a per ordinance. So this is actually an ordinance. It's an ordinance amending the existing ordinance, and it's a two-process procedure.
So we're basically waiving the reading, and
approving the introduction of this amendment to our existing ordinance.
So again, I repeat my motion.
A second?
Vice Mayor? Is that a second?
I believe Mayor Stransky.
Oh, okay.
Councilmember Allman.
Oh, we're waiting for a comment.
We have to, how about anybody in the audience? Thank you. Dolores?
Councilmember Allman.
Aye.
Gonzalez.
Yes.
Alanis.
Aye.
Mayor Stransky.
Yes.
And someone has caught many children at school vaping these things. I'm telling you, it's quite a day. It's a wonderful day. So, yes.
My kid
They hear
just
you
told me.
coming about when they know what I'm looking for.
Okay, Dolores, you?
The next item is introduction by title only to insert chapter 8.24, notorious oxide sales into the city of Willits. Nitrous.
Notorious.
Nitrous oxide sales into the city of Willits Municipal Code, making it unlawful for any person in the city, with exceptions, to sell or attempt to sell, offer, distribute, or provide nitrous oxide to any person, presenting staff member, again, is Philip Davidson, Code Compliance Officer.
Okay,
Yeah, so this here ordinance is against nitrous oxide, for the sales of nitrous oxide for public use, or whippets, doing the whippets. I talked to the high school kids, and it's a growing fad. And yeah, so this will make it where like you can't buy your whippets at tobacco shops, or you can't buy them in bulk here in the city limits. Some of the exceptions, I'll have to clarify them for you all if you want to know more, but like cake decorating can still buy them, and dessert places can still buy the nitrous oxides for their whipped cream, but the general use won't be able to buy nitrous oxide in bulk.
does everybody understand what he's saying? It's laughing gas, essentially.
Yeah, they do it through whipped cream containers. And there's really no way, you don't overdose on it, your brain just stops. So you don't.
Phil, we have businesses in town that are selling these, don't we?
I believe so, yes.
Yes, we do.
And I believe you can get them online too.
You can get them online, and that would take the state action to do that. But it would make it harder for the kids to get them, because right now I'm not sure if there's an age limit on it or not.
There's not.
I see empty cases of them around, and I see the canisters all over. And like I said, I talk to the high schoolers, and they tell me everything they do, so.
Want to party with you, man.
Yep, anytime.
They just post it on social media, you see everything they do.
Anybody else? Tom?
Well, as a former coroner of this county, I'll tell you that I know of 2 teenagers who died from nitrous oxide whippets, and these are the silver CO2 containers you see on the side of the road, cul-de-sacs. And this is long overdue, and certainly it would be great if our state legislature would take this in control. I've been to Sacramento asking for this, and the restaurant lobby has been very much against any kind of ordinance, because the restaurant lobby believes that they need these to make their whipped cream. And it, as was said, it literally kills the brain on overdose. And so when you see a pile of 12, 18, 26 silver containers on the side of the road, somebody certainly took away their ability to be a 4.0 student, I'll tell you that right now. And this is this should be at a state and a national level. So thank you.
Jerry? Anything? Okay, do I have a?
I'd like to make a motion to
I'll second.
You'll second, Jerry, second, Jerry will second.
And just for clarity, we should say what the motion is. The motion would be to approve introduction of ordinance adding section 8.24 to the Willits Municipal Code and waive formal reading of the ordinance text.
That's my motion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Owen?
Aye.
We have the audience first. Is anybody want to say anything?
I just want to say that I'm very glad that you are approving this and the previous motion, that anything that increases the protection of our youth, but also our adults as well, from some of these really horrendous products that are harming our public. So thank you very much.
I believe I heard a reference to in bulk. Can you elaborate on what that means, rather than an individual?
I can tell you there's a store in town that literally sells these by the 48 per container case. It's not just a public safety nuisance for children, but certainly, well, when I saw them, they were stored next to cases of 24 butane containers, which are used to make hashish at a head shop. And it's a fire department issue as well as a public safety issue. So yeah, buying them in bulk on the internet is quite common, which means they're just being shipped and no one knows what's in that Amazon box. But yeah, it's in bulk is the quite common way to do it. And at the state level, to be quite honest, there should be a requirement to have serial numbers on these silver containers, which would make them trackable to who's selling them. But the restaurant industry is much more powerful than I am.
Thank you, Tom. Jerry?
Can I confirm that the motion made included scheduling the second reading at the next meeting?
Yes.
Schedule the
It's
second.
implied.
Okay, I was just want to double check. Okay,
It's on.
okay, just double check.
Do I have a motion, please?
Yep. Motion and second, we've had
The motion
it.
is second, now you need a roll call.
Got it.
Councilmember Allman?
Aye.
Wait a
Gonzalez?
second. Anybody from the audience?
You already did.
We got that.
We got that. Madge came up and spoke. And
Okay, thank you.
unless you
very
want to
much.
ask if anybody else.
I'm used to Madge sitting by me and she talks. Okay, thank you. Okay, excuse me again, Dolores.
Councilmember Allman?
Aye.
Gonzalez?
Yes.
Alanese?
Yes.
Mayor Stransky?
Yes.
And just so you know, we've now introduced two ordinances, an amendment and a new one. And so before our next meeting, Dolores will publish a notice in the newspaper advising the public that at your next meeting, this will be up for adoption. And then should you pass the ordinance and adopt it at your next meeting, there'll also be a follow-up publication in the newspaper summarizing the text of the new ordinance.
You're summarizing or containing it all in all its contents.
Is any of that going to be interfered with the fact that our local paper is not going to be publishing for next month?
I will reach out to the Willits News
Okay.
to publish it.
Cool.
And they produce out of Ukiah.
Yeah, same thing.
The next item is City Council announcements, communications, and reports.
I'm not sure we may have any.
Well, I'd like, maybe the city manager can brief everybody as to where we are on the recruitment, not specific names or anything, for the January 22nd meeting where we're going to hopefully appoint a new city council person.
Thank you, Member Allman. That's a good segue. We are still seeking applications. Anyone who's interested, please submit. Come down and see City Clerk. We have the application material and we'll walk the applicants through the process. So right now we have none.
We had one turned in, but it was discovered that the particular person does not live within city limits. Please remember that you do need to have an address, that you reside in city limits, and that needs to match your voter registration, please.
And the deadline is a week from
The
today.
15th.
End of the business day at 5:30.
Good and welfare?
Actually,
Tom?
I just want to thank, we have a couple visitors from the coast, and you guys came a long ways to watch our city council meeting. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
thank you.
Good Rotarians.
Actually, I just wanted to say, I'm going to be traveling to Sacramento on the 23rd to attend the League of Cities Public Safety Committee meeting. I guess they're both, one's meeting on the 23rd, one's meeting on the 24th. The different policy committees are meeting, and I think public safety and another one are meeting on the 23rd, and then on the 24th, another set are meeting. But they're doing the in-person ones in Sacramento.
Do you need the Prius?
No, I'll just drive over.
That car in Mr. Gonzalez has some history.
That car has some history.
Does anybody have anything more for public safety? I mean, good and welfare, excuse me. Okay,
Now it's time for our closed session. As City Manager Bender stated earlier, that one item had been pulled, so it's a conference with legal counsel, existing litigation.
No,
That's the wrong one. That's the one that was pulled. Conference with labor negotiators pursuant to government Code Section 54957.6, agency negotiator Patrick Clark Consulting, and city manager Bender, employee organization, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, IBEW.
Thank you very much for coming, and it'll be announced afterwards if we make any decisions. Thank you. The 6-month agreement with the IEW, and we're going to have, they're going to have all of the permit information, and then we will approve it on the 22nd.
Okay, so it's coming back to council on the 22nd.
Yeah.